Alright guys, we're going to do a little bit of a different video today. We're going to talk about some of our gear. Usually you're used to seeing us shoot some fish and people ask us a lot of questions, so...
You guys don't see me shoot fish.
Trying something a little bit different.
God. I'm glad he didn't hit me in the face with that. Alright, so what we've got here are our knives, dive knives. Very important to have them, not just for safety, but for killing fish, things like that. We've got a couple different brands. We've got 2 Salvimars, 2 Rifes, and a new one that we just got in today called Spearpro. I know that the 2 Salvimars and the Spearpro came from Bennett. Did the Rifes come from Bennett?
So these Rifes are both just ordered online, just from pretty much random online retailers. They're pretty similar in construction. They're both a couple years different as far as the generation technology they put into dive knives recently. But I'd say these 3 did come from Bennett, and these 3 are kind of the similar design where it's basically just...
Yeah, it's all the stiletto
a pointy
style
thing to stab a fish with, whereas these have a little bit more functionality built into them.
So this one and this one both do have a sheath. The Salvimar one, this is my personal one. It goes right here on my belt. This is David's knife. This one is David's, and he keeps it on a sheath on his belt as well. We all keep them on our belts. We don't really keep them on our arms or legs or anything. I know that I've gotten into some fun with the Dynamo where I kind of got wrapped up and couldn't reach the knife on my leg. But that's why I started putting it on my belt.
We definitely recommend putting them on the belts, especially where you can get to them with both hands. If it's on your leg, it's just going to get tangled in all kinds of different stuff. It's just not as easy to access. It's just one extra motion when you need it, and when you need it most, you really need it right that second, not a delay after. So we definitely recommend that belt attachment, whereas something like this one right here really isn't meant to have anything but the leg holster, arm holster, however you want to put that on.
Yeah, that is really skinny.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
So I'll talk about the Salvimars first while you drink your beer. So one thing that I don't know if you guys can see, but it's kind of rusty right here. We've kind of had some issues with them keeping an edge on these Salvimars and keeping a good point to them. I've had to sharpen this one quite a bit. But it's also getting really rusty, and these are supposed to be made out of stainless. Now, I know that if you contaminate stainless with something carbon fiber or whatever, you can get rust in there. But we've been having some issues. It still cuts, it still stabs, it still does everything fine, but I can definitely tell that it wears out really quickly on this one. And David had told us earlier that this one, he actually put a new point on and a new edge on it, and it hasn't seen water since then, right? Hasn't seen water since he did that. So, I mean, you can still see it's still rusted already. Even like at the handle and everything. And he sharpened it, but, I mean, I'm putting pressure on that, and it's not doing anything. If I did that to either one of these knives, it would have gone through my finger. So, we didn't know maybe if it's just our knives, if we were doing something different. I know that we had put on the Gulf Coast Freediving page recommendations for knives, and everybody swore by the Salvimars. And then I told them that was actually the knives we were having issues with, and they just couldn't believe it. Same thing on the Noob Spearo page, on the Facebook page, which I'll put links to both of those in the description below. But everybody swore by these or the Rifes, and the Rifes are ones that Ian used, so I'm going to let him talk about those Rifes.
Yeah. So out with these knives, and we'll talk about these right here. These are 2 Rife knives. This is a little bit of an older one. This is the silencer. This has not been sharpened ever or ever really taken the rust off. I used to oil it, but I have not in about 3 years or so. Not sure if you can see that. We'll actually post some pictures on later, but you can see there's hardly any rust on that. It's got a decent tip still. The straight blade's decent. And the serrated is still great for cutting Dyneema and I suppose steel cable, although I've never really tried steel cable, but we don't really have a use for that in our Gulf waters. The only issue I have with this knife is the sheath is very fragile. As far as there's a retention button in there that unfortunately got smashed by a kayak, so probably not the greatest thing to have a complex design like that in a knife retention mechanism like that. And then this is their newer one, the Rife Wrangler. This is the long blade model with the straight blade and the serrated. This is a little bit different as far as just the full tang plastic molded handle. Just a pretty straightforward sheath, just I assume nylon or glass injected plastic. It retains in there pretty good, and then you got the lanyard, of course, to hold it in a little bit better. Fits on the belt just great, pulls out fine. You've got your noise signaling device, or whatever they call that, hammer on the bottom for. On top of that, they have a nice little feature, that little notch, if you can see that, that's meant to be able to grab onto the, whatever you call that little thing, that the trigger mechanism goes on, so you can pull a shaft out that gets stuck in a reef or anything like that.
That's the back
end. Back end. Well, whatever you call the little taper right there.
Yeah, because that's a Euro back end. So yeah.
The notch.
There you go.
Yeah, there we go. So that's the Rife knife. Recently, I've kind of gone in a different direction as far as trying to go less is more or cheaper is better, especially something, these are more in a price point of $50
30
or
to
so.
50 for these.
30, 50. This is like a $90 knife. This is like an $80 knife. I'm trying to go something a little bit cheaper more just as a backup, and then also it's not a bad idea to have two knives. This is a nice little $40 Spearpro. Pretty simple construction. Also, I like the dual serrated edge, since there really ain't much use for a straight edge on a dive knife, in my opinion at least. It's got a pretty nice point, nice looking blade. This hasn't seen water yet, so we'll do a test later on to see how good it will cut Dyneema from the factory. But and then it's got a pretty nice simple sheath. The only thing I'm not a huge fan of so far is the retention. I think that's a little bit too much to be doing while you're trying to be diving versus just jam it in there. But I guess that lanyard is kind of the equivalent on that side.
This one is actually thick too. Like it comes to a stiletto, but it's a nice thick point. I'll get some close-up shots to really show it off. But it looks really good. It feels really good. It just looks like a good design. And with Dyneema, I prefer having a serrated edge. If you ever try to cut Dyneema with a straight edge, it's not that easy. Cutting mono with a straight edge is a little bit easier, but we don't use mono. Isn't that right, darling?
Yeah.
But we having a double serrated is definitely the way to go on our knives. I don't even use the straight edge on mine. I always use the serrated version, or the serrated side. But I'll get some close-ups of this, and we'll put some descriptions or some links in the description below about getting some of these. Like I said, most of them came from Benthic, so we'll throw those in the description below. Let us know if you guys have used any of these knives, what you think, issues that you've had, whatever. Let us know in the comments below. I know that next time I think we're going to be trying to do a review of some different masks that we have, because I think everybody except for me and David use different masks. So we're going to do some kind of review stuff for weekends that we can't get out on the water. Like this weekend we didn't go diving, so we'll have some kind of footage and some videos to post on weekends that we don't go diving. But I think that'll do it. I think that'll be good.
Cheers.
Cheers. Oh, my Coke's up there. Oh, well. Oh, gosh.